Hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are doing great. I am Neha Rajvanshi and I welcome you all in today's class, that is English class of class 8th. So students, we have started reading with our chapter number 1 from the book Honeydew. The name of the chapter is The Best Christmas Present in the World, and till now we have completed 2 parts of this chapter, and in today's video we will complete with our part 3. The name of part 3 is The Gift. So students, I am very much sure that you all remember that in the previous video we have read that the narrator, he was reading the letter that was written by Jim McPherson to his wife Connie, and now the narrator, he is having all the idea that what was written in the letter, and he also knew about that wonderful thing that when World War I was going on at that time, Britishers and Germans, or we can say British soldiers and German soldiers, they celebrated Christmas together. And we also knew one thing more, that all the soldiers, they are having similar feelings, because all the soldiers, they actually want peace. Why? Because war, it is not at all beneficial for anyone. So all the soldiers, they also want peace, they also want to have a normal and happy relationship in the entire world. Okay, so that much we have read, and in this video we will complete reading with our chapter. So now let's continue with part 3. So this is part 3 of our chapter. I folded the letter again and slipped it carefully back into its envelope. So now the narrator is saying that when he had completed that letter, when he had read that letter that was written by Jim McPherson, so after reading the letter, the narrator, he folded the letter again and then he slipped that letter carefully back into its envelope. So we have read earlier in the chapter that the narrator, he found one envelope, and inside the envelope there was a letter. So now the narrator, first of all, he read the letter, and now once more again he just put the letter carefully back into the envelope. I kept awake all night. After that, the narrator, there were so many thoughts in his mind that the narrator, he was unable to sleep. He just kept awake all night because he was thinking about so many things, that what he should do now. By morning, I knew what I had to do, and throughout the night, throughout the whole night, the narrator, he was thinking that what he should do next, and by morning he was having the answer. By morning he knew very well that what he should do, what he had to do. I drove into Bridport, just a few miles away. So by the morning, the narrator, he was having his decision, he was having his answer, that what is the most appropriate thing that he should do, and according to his decision, he drove into Bridport. So students, you remember this place Bridport, it was the address that was there on the envelope. So now the narrator, he is going to this place, that is Bridport, just a few miles away, and this place was just a few miles away. I asked a boy walking his dog where Copper Beaches was, and when the narrator, when he reached this place, that is Bridport, and after reaching there, the narrator, he saw there one boy who was walking his dog. So the narrator, he asked about this place, that is Copper Beaches. So he asked that where this place Copper Beaches was, and this is the address of Connie McPherson, this is the address of Jim McPherson. Okay, so now the narrator, he just wanted to go to that place because now he wanted to return that letter to Connie. So now the narrator, he is there at Bridport, and now he is looking for that address. House number 12 turned out to be nothing but a burned out shell, the roof gaping, the windows boarded up. So finally, when the narrator, he was there at the Copper Beaches, and finally he was at house number 12, then he found out that this house was nothing but a burned out shell. So what burned out means? It means completely destroyed by fire. Okay, so this was the reason that when the narrator, he found that that roll top box, then it was having scorch marks all over one side. Why? Because this house, that is house number 12, where she used to live, so that house caught fire because of some incident, because of some accident. Okay, so now the narrator, he found that this house was completely destroyed because of fire, and the roof of this house were having so many gaps, and the windows, they were boarded up. So what boarded up means? It means covered with wooden boards. Like in this picture you all can see, this is the window of a house, and this window is completely covered, okay, with the help of wooden boards. So the windows of that house, all the windows, they were completely covered with the help of wooden boards. I knocked at the house next door and asked if anyone knew the whereabouts of a Mrs. Macpherson. So now it was clear that that house caught fire, and now there was no one inside the house. But the narrator, he is very much determined. He just wanted to find that lady, that is Connie, because he just wanted to return that letter. So now what the narrator did next? So next the narrator, he knocked at the house next door. It means the neighbor's house. So the person who was living next door, it means the neighbors. So the narrator, he knocked the neighbor's house and he asked that if anyone knew about the where Mrs. Macpherson she is. It means he just wanted to know that where Mrs. Macpherson is, anyone is having any kind of idea. Oh yes, said the old man in his slippers. He knew her well. So who was the neighbor? There was one old man and he was in his slippers. He was wearing some kind of footwears, and he said that yes, he knew her well. He knew that lady, that is Connie, or we can say Mrs. Macpherson, very well. A lovely old lady, he told me, a bit muddle-headed, but at her age she was entitled to be, wasn't she? And when the narrator, when he inquired about Connie Macpherson, then that old man who was the neighbor, he told that yes, he knew very well, and he also told that Connie Macpherson, she is a very lovely old lady, and he also told that she is a bit muddle-headed. So what muddle-headed means? It means very confused, or we can say puzzled. So that old man told the narrator that Connie Macpherson, she is a very lovely lady, but at the same time she is a little bit of confused and puzzled. But next he also told that at her age she was entitled to be, she was supposed to be like this, she was expected to be like this, she was expected to be little bit of confused, wasn't she? So what was her age? 101 years old. Okay, so Connie Macpherson, she is now 101 years old, and this is the reason she is so much confused. She is having some kind of memory loss, okay, because she is 101 years old. She had been in the house when it caught a fire, and when the house of Connie Macpherson, when the house caught fire, at that time she was inside the house only. No one really knew how the fire had started, but it could well have been candles, and no one was having any kind of idea that how the fire had started, how there was a fire in the house. No one was having any idea, but it could well have been candles. But हर कोई ये guess कर रहा था that candles, they can be reason, they can be behind this fire. Why? She used candles rather than electricity, because Mrs. Macpherson, or we can say Connie, she used candles in place of electricity. Why? Because she always thought electricity was too expensive, because for Connie electricity, it was very much expensive. This was the reason in place of electricity she used candles, and maybe because of the candles there was a huge fire in the house. The fireman had got her out just in time. So Connie, she was inside the house when the house caught fire. So when there were firemen, when firemen were there, so they were able to get her out just in time. It means she was saved, she was safe, okay, and firemen, they were able to get her out from the house well in time. She was in a nursing home now. He told me Burlington House on the Dorchester Road on the other side of town. So now where she is now, where Mrs. Macpherson is. So that old man, he also told the narrator that as of now Mrs. Macpherson, she was in a nursing home, okay, and the name of this nursing home is Burlington House. And where was that? It was on the Dorchester Road, that is on the other side of that town. I found Burlington House nursing home easily enough. So the narrator, now he was having another destination. Now he just wanted to go to that nursing house, and when he was having the address, so he went to that place, and he is saying that very easily he found that nursing house, that is Burlington Nursing House. There were paper chains up in the hallway, and a lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with her lopsided angel on top. And when the narrator finally, when he reached to that nursing house, because he just wanted to return that letter to Connie, so when he was at the nursing house, and we all know that it was Christmas day, so what he found that there were paper chains up in the hallway. So what paper chains up means, in this picture you all can see this decorative item is known as paper chains. और हम सब ने देखा है जब भी कोई सेलिब्रेशन हम करते हैं घर पे, कोई भी फेस्टिवल होता है, कोई भी ओकेजन होता है, then we also decorate our house with the help of such paper chains. So such kind of paper chains were there in the hallway, and there was one lighted Christmas tree also that stood in the corner with a lopsided angel on the top. So in this picture you all can see this is a lighted Christmas tree, and the top of this tree there is a figure of angel. So such kind of Christmas tree, it was there on the corner of the hallway, and the entire hall, it was decorated with the help of such paper chains. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Macpherson to bring her a Christmas present. So when the narrator, when he was finally there, then he told that he was a friend of Mrs. Macpherson. And why he was there? He was there because he was having some Christmas present for Mrs. Macpherson. I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat and singing. And now the narrator is saying that at that time he was able to see through into the dining room of that nursing home, that everyone who was there, they were having a paper hat and they all were singing. So in this picture we all can see these are the paper hats. So it was Christmas, it was the celebration time, and all the people, they were very happy, they were enjoying, they were celebrating Christmas. And this was the reason that the entire nursing house, it was decorated, Christmas tree was there, and all the people who were there, they were singing, they were enjoying, they were wearing such kind of paper hats, and they were singing Christmas carols. The matron had a hat on too and seemed happy enough to see me. So when the narrator, he was there at that time, the matron of that nursing house. So what matron means? Matron means the in charge, okay. So the in charge of that nursing house, she was there, and she was also having a hat, and she was very much happy when she found that some visitor is there who is there to meet Mrs. Macpherson. She even offered me a mince pie, and because it was Christmas celebration, so that matron, she offered a dish, that is mince pie, to the narrator. So in this picture we all can see this is the dish. She walked me along the corridor, and after that the matron, she walked the narrator along the corridor of that nursing house. Mrs. Macpherson is not in with the others, she told me. She is rather confused today, so we thought it best if she had a good rest. And when they were walking through the corridor, at that time the matron, the in charge of that nursing house, she told the narrator that Mrs. Macpherson is not with the other people who are in the dining room. Why? Because next she told that today Mrs. Macpherson, she was rather more confused, and then they all thought that it would be better, it would be best if she had a good rest. So this was the reason that Mrs. Macpherson, she was not in the dining room, room with all the other people. Why? Because she was resting, because we have read earlier that she was 101 years old and she was having some kind of memory loss. She is a little bit of confused, and this was the reason that the matron and the other doctors of that nursing home, they thought that it would be better for Mrs. Macpherson if she would take some little rest. She has no family, no one visits. Next to that matron, she told that Mrs. Macpherson, she is having no family, she is having no friends, no relative, no one is there to visit her. So I am sure she will be only too pleased to see you. Next, the matron told that as no one visits her, no one is there, she is having no family, no friend, no relative, and this is the reason that when she will find that today she is having a visitor, then definitely she will be very much pleased, she will be very much happy. She took me into a conservatory with wicker chairs and potted plants all around and left me. So after passing the corridor, finally the matron, she took the narrator into a conservatory. So what conservatory means? Conservatory means a glass room. It means a room that is made with glass. Like in this picture you all can see such kind of room जहाँ पे सारे जो walls होती है वहाँ पे glass लगा हुआ होता है. So such kind of room is known as conservatory. So such kind of conservatory was there in that nursing house. So the matron, she took the narrator in that room, and in that room there were some wicker chairs and potted plants. So in this picture you all can see, students, this is the wicker chair and potted plants. So such kind of plants, such kinds of chair were there in that room, and finally the matron, she left the narrator there. The old lady was sitting in a wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap, and in that room there was Mrs. Macpherson, and we all know that she is an old lady and she was sitting in a wheelchair and her hands were folded in her lap. She had silver white hair pinned into a wispy bun, and now because she is 101 years old, so obviously she was having silver white hair, but her hair were very systematically, in a very neat and clean way, they were pinned into a wispy bun. Okay, so she was having such kind of bun. She was gazing out at the garden, and what she was doing, she was sitting on the wheelchair and she was gazing, she was looking out at the garden. Hello, I said, and when the narrator, when finally he was there near Mrs. Macpherson, then first of all he said hello. She turned and looked up at me vacantly. So when Mrs. Macpherson, she realized that someone is there in the room and he is saying hello to her, then she turned and then she was looking towards the narrator vacantly, means without any expression. It means she was having no idea that who that person is. So it means she was entirely vacant, she was having no expressions, she was having no interest to. Happy Christmas, Connie, I went on, but the narrator, he was saying, and next he wished Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas to that lady. He said Happy Christmas, Connie. I found this, I think it's yours. And next he told the biggest secret and the reason that why he was there. So next he said that I found this, and we all know what this is. This is the letter, or we can say the last letter that was written by Jim Macpherson. So the narrator, he told that I found this and I think that this is yours. As I was speaking, her eyes never left my face, and the narrator is now saying that when the narrator, when he was speaking, when he was talking with Connie, at that time Connie's eyes, they never left narrator's face. It means continuously Connie, she was looking towards the face of the narrator. Why? Because she was just trying to remember that who this person is. I opened the tin box and gave it to her. So the narrator, finally the tin box that he was having, so he opened that tin box and then he gave that box to Connie, to Mrs. Macpherson. That was the moment her eyes lit up with recognition and her face became suffused with a sudden glow of happiness. So when finally Connie, when she was having that tin box, when she was having that envelope, so at that time this was the moment when finally her eyes lit up, when finally there was one light, one finally brightness was there in her eyes, and her face became suffused. Suffused means full of with a sudden glow of happiness. It means finally there was brightness in her eyes, finally there was happiness on her face. Why? Because now she was having the letter, the precious letter with her. I explained about the desk, about how I had found it, but I don't think she was listening. And now the narrator is saying that after giving the tin box, after giving the letter to Connie, the narrator was explaining, he was telling each and everything that how he was having the letter. So first of all he explained about the desk, now he was explaining that how he found the letter, but at the same time the narrator is saying that he doesn't think that when he was explaining Connie, she was listening, she was having any kind of interest that what the narrator is speaking. Why? Because she was holding the letter in her hands and her entire focus, her entire concentration was there on the letter. It means she was not at all listening what the narrator was saying. For a while she said nothing but stroked the letter tenderly with her fingertips, and after some time Connie, she said nothing, she didn't speak, and what she was doing, she just stroked the letter tenderly. So let's see the meanings. Stroke means move the hand in a very gentle way, and tenderly means softly. It means she was moving her finger in a very gentle manner, in a very soft manner over that letter. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand, and after some time suddenly she reached out and finally she took the hand of the narrator. She held the hand of the narrator. Her eyes were filled with tears, and now she is very full of emotions and there were tears in her eyes. You told me you would come home by Christmas, dearest, she said. Okay, so now Mrs. Macpherson Coney, she is full of emotions, she is having so many feelings, so many emotions in her heart, in her mind, and now she is saying, she said that you told me that you would come home by Christmas, dearest. So what it means? It means that when finally Mrs. Macpherson, she is having the letter, the last letter that was written by her husband, and now because of her old age, because of the memory loss that we have read earlier in the chapter, that she is a little bit confused and puzzled nowadays. So because of all these reasons, Mrs. Macpherson, she is thinking that the narrator is Jim Macpherson. Okay, and उनको ऐसा लग रहा है कि narrator जो है वो कौन है, that is her husband only, and this is the reason she is saying that you told me that you would come home by Christmas, dearest, and here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim dear, sit down. Okay, so now Mrs. Macpherson, उनको लग रहा है कि जो narrator हैं, जो visitor हैं, that is her husband only, and she is saying that you promised that you would come home by Christmas, and here you are, it is Christmas, and finally you are with me, finally you are at home, and this is the best Christmas present in the world. And next she is saying that come closer and just sit down to me. I sat down beside her and she kissed my cheek. So now the narrator, he is also having all kind of idea, he is also able to understand that what Mrs. Macpherson is thinking, but the narrator वो बिल्कुल भी उनके इस confusion को clear नहीं करते हैं. And what the narrator is doing, the narrator, he just sat down near Mrs. Macpherson, and then Mrs. Macpherson, she kissed the cheeks of the narrator. I read your letters so often, Jim, every day. I wanted to hear your voice in my head. And now again Mrs. Macpherson, she is having so many emotions and she is saying that I read your letters so often, Jim, almost every day. Mrs. Macpherson, she used to read that letter, and next she is saying that I just wanted to hear your voice in my head. It always made me feel you were with me, and now you are back. You can read it to me yourself. Would you do that for me, Jim dear? And now she is saying that it always made me feel you were with me. So why Mrs. Macpherson? She used to read that letter every day, because yes, this was the last letter. Okay, जब भी वो letter को पढ़ा करती थी, so every time she was having this kind of feeling that her husband is there only, her husband is with her only. So now she is saying the same thing, and she is saying that it always made her feel that her husband, that is Jim Macpherson, he was always with her when she was reading that letter. And now she is saying that finally you are here, finally you are at home, you are with me. So now when you are back, so now you can read this letter to me. Okay, and now she is asking that would you do that for me, Jim dear? So now she is requesting to the visitor, that is the narrator actually, to read that letter for her. I just want to hear your voice again. Why? Because Mrs. Macpherson, she just wanted to hear the voice of her husband one more time. I would love that so much, and then perhaps we will have some tea. And now she is saying that she is very fond of the voice of her husband also, and this is the reason she just wanted to hear the voice of her husband. And next she is having some other plans, that after that they will enjoy some tea, they will enjoy some good quality time with each other. I have made you a nice Christmas cake, marzipan all around. I know how much you love marzipan. And now Mrs. Macpherson, she is saying that today is Christmas, and just to celebrate this festival Christmas, I have made you a nice Christmas cake, marzipan all around over that cake. So in the chapter earlier we have read this thing also, that Connie, that is Mrs. Macpherson, she used to bake a special Christmas cake for her husband, and the specialty of that cake was marzipan, that is the upper covering of that cake. So she is having this kind of memory still, and this is the reason she is saying that today is Christmas, and just to celebrate this festival I have made you a nice Christmas cake, and that cake is having marzipan all around. I know how much you love marzipan. Okay, so now here we can see that Connie, that is Mrs. Macpherson, yes, she is 101 years old. She is very old, and she is suffering from memory loss. She is a little bit of confused and puzzled, but still she is having so many memories. And now finally when she is having that letter, that is the last letter written by her husband, that is so precious for her. So now she is again confused, and she is taking narrator to be her husband, but now she is having this kind of memory that her husband, she used to bake a special Christmas cake for her husband, and her husband, he used to like that cake very much. And today also she is saying that she just want to bake that favorite cake for her husband. So students, the chapter ends here, and in this chapter we can see so many emotions. We can see first of all the emotions, the feelings of a soldier, right? And then we can see the feelings, the emotions of a lady who lost her husband in a war. Okay, and now she also lost a precious gift, a letter that was the last letter, but the narrator, he also knew the importance, the value of that letter, and with all the efforts finally he was there just to return that letter. And yes, this letter, it was the best Christmas present, it was the best Christmas gift for Connie, for Mrs. Macpherson, right? So I am very much sure that the chapter is very clear to you all, and in the next video we will see the comprehension part. We will solve the questions of this chapter. See you in the next video. Thank you.